My name's Gavin.
I'm Steve. Nice to meet you.
I'm Gavin.
Sylvia.
John.
Nice to meet you, John.
Hi, Sylvia.
Nice to meet you.
Okay.
Yeah, so we're just asking about the shape of the Earth. Do you believe you live on a spinning ball?
Yes. I do believe I live on a spinning ball.
Can we ask you why you believe that?
See pictures of it. You see the horizon is, it's curved.
You're taught it from a young age at school, I guess. It's just the main general belief.
If I was to show you a picture of the Loch Ness Monster, you said images, you've seen images. If I was to show you a picture of the Loch Ness Monster, would that constitute natural scientific evidence?
I would have to verify that picture, I suppose, somehow.
If it was a really super picture, would you still think that to be scientific evidence?
If it was verified, then yes, if somebody,
And did you want to verify the pictures from NASA? Did you think about verifying them?
I think there's enough people that have taken those pictures and have proven it that it would have come out by now.
Yeah, it's more of like a general consensus with someone like NASA. It's like a wider scale thing. The Earth is round.
It's a belief in authority?
Yeah. There's an authority backing it up. With the Loch Ness Monster, there seems to be like a urban legend or myth. Well, not urban, but
what if I said those images are not photographs though? They're photoshopped.
They're all
Which ones? Of the Earth?
Yeah, they're all composites of photoshopped.
I'd say like if you went down the sort of like it's a conspiracy route, it'd have to be like a huge conspiracy.
No, we're not saying it's a conspiracy.
Okay.
The people generally believe what they're saying and what they're relating to us. But Robert Simmons, who works for NASA, recently came on and said that they're all photoshopped because they have to be. So they're not real photographs.
Renditions.
They're renditions, they're composites.
Okay.
So every, for example, rocket launch, you see a rocket going up, but at some point they switch to the computer animation of what the rocket is doing in space, but there's no more video photography. NASA admits that. It's on their own website that it's composites and CGI.
It's the same with satellites. There's no real footage of satellites either.
Okay.
It's all CGI of rockets and satellites as soon as you get to space.
Okay.
Alright, okay.
So we have no images that are real photographs of the Earth, so we can't really rely on that. As Gavin pointed out, that images are not reliable because you could have a Loch Ness Monster with Mickey Mouse sitting on it, make it look real with the Photoshop technology we have today.
I guess, yes.
You can verify if it's photoshopped or not, can you?
So maybe I'll approach this from do you know the difference between a natural science and a formal science?
So a natural science and a...
So a natural science is when it's observable, repeatable, measurable, testable. So like things in nature, and a formal science like mathematics is a language where you make definitions, axioms, assumptions, and you build models that describe what you think is happening. So that's a formal science, like a language. It's a language. And a natural science is all about observing nature, basically.
I understand that.
So that's the difference between a natural philosophy and mathematics. And that basically mathematics you can define axioms.
You're assuming whatever you're seeing is correct. Like you're assuming then whatever you observe is definitely real. So
I would say fire is hot. When I put my hand in, it burns.
Yes.
Ice is cold. I feel pain. There's 4 people here. Those are direct realist facts.
Do you believe that your mind can play tricks on you sometimes and make you perceive something that's not there?
My mind, yes, but not my senses. I would ask you back. Do you trust your senses?
To an extent. But I'm aware of their limitations.
And where would you think the limitations are?
I can have a mental disability that I don't know about. I could be in a different state of mind. I could be very tired.
But if I was to say to you, for example, the physical properties of light never change, and the physiology of your eye never changes, then if we speak correctly, there is no fallacy in the senses. It's maybe your mind's interpretation of the senses that are fallacious or not correct. But the physical properties of your eye and light never change, so you can't trust that that's not going to happen. What you can't maybe trust is what your perception is of what you're seeing, correct?
I follow you to a certain extent there,
Would you agree with that?
Yeah.
So, and that's back to the distinction between having a belief and knowing a fact of reality. So,
I suppose this is the thing, you're basing, I see what you're getting at, it's like, you're saying like in terms of like whether the Earth's round, there's only a certain group or handful of people that know this for fact, as in they've been up in a space shuttle, they've looked at it
520 people have been up in space, apparently.
And the rest of us all go, right, okay, from what you've done, this is fact. There's not many other people get the chance to You know?
Exactly.
Whereas, what the things...
520 people, that's like, what, that's just NASA? That's just in America?
Apparently
or
the history of space, there's been 520 people up there that could see the ball from above.
Okay.
That's what we're told anyway.
Yeah.
Well, wouldn't you think that there's somebody that knows enough science that made calculations without going to space, saying like,
Scientists here.
they're actually correct?
Well, you keep bringing this up, but I studied mathematics and physics at Glasgow University in 1986.
Right,
so I've got a combined honours degree, and I believed various things about mathematics and that they were a proof of things.
Okay.
But I've come to the realisation with 52, about 3 years ago, that it doesn't correlate with observable reality. So I'll give you an example of that. If I put water in a cup, if I put it in the basin, if I put it in a bathtub, if I put it in a swimming pool, if I put it in a lake, then water will always be level. It'll be the same height here and the same height here, and it will stay level.
Yes.
Water never displays convexity. Yeah, you don't get bent water.
No.
Water cannot conform to the exterior of a shape. So if I now, if I take,
what's it called, a menisc? I don't know what the translation is in English.
So
but depending
surface-
on the receptacle that's in, it could be curved or.
so we're talking
one way or the
about
other.
surface tension there, and I agree that exists. So a soap bubble would be another example of it. But if I take the natural properties of water, which is always to collapse, spread out, and seek its level, then if I'm told that the Earth is covered with 85% water and it's round, then how can water be level and conform to the exterior of a shape at the same time?
Is it not curved when you look at the horizon?
I've never seen curved water in my life.
Well, the distance it curves.
Could I ask about that? I mean, the fact that nobody showed any evidence of that, but let's just say it did carve on the horizon.
Yes.
Then it should carve on my right and it should carve on my left and behind me, if that's on a ball.
If you're on a ball that curves in all
It
directions.
just falls away
Yeah.
from you,
But that never happens, does it? We must be living in a
I don't know.
sausage.
I've never really looked at that, so I can't confirm or deny that. I'm afraid.
Well, that's fine.
Right. So we must be living in a sausage because it's only curving in one direction. But
I don't know. You're saying that, but I haven't
But
actually.
then it would be easy to prove if you just ascended in a helicopter and did a 360 turn with a camera, and it would show you evidence of a curvature all the way around, wouldn't it?
So what are you proposing? I feel like it's going somewhere, like you're evoking direction here.
That we're saying that the Earth
with the
isn't round
theory
at
that
all.
you have.
Well, yeah, no, I don't have a theory, or I'm not making the claim. I'm just saying that
You're testing our
people,
challenging what we're told.
Yeah.
we've been told, all of us have been told since we were 5 years old that we live on a little ball and that it's spinning and we're going through space. And we believe that at that age because it's natural to have that credulity and believe what somebody, an adult, tells you.
Yeah.
And I went through all my life not critically thinking whether that was true or not.
Okay.
Did you two do it? No.
What's this?
Did you two critically think about whether that was true or not?
Yes, I grew up in Catholic environment, so I don't know. There were a lot of crazy stuff, really, that you just grow up thinking that that's the truth because you've been told that, and then you've been told something else.
It's a belief in not verifiable,
Yeah, I guess so.
natural, repeatable, observable, measurable, right?
But I
Sorry,
guess
sorry.
whatever we're told in science classes seems more plausible than
Yeah. Well, both,
Earth being 1,000 years old.
Yeah, when
Like
to
2,000
go
years
to your
old.
question, for me it was a case of obviously you believe these things from when you were 5 years old, but then as you go on and do degrees, like you're asking your lecturers,
still believe it.
You're asking your lecturers certain questions and things like that, and you're challenging them through the questions, and they're coming back with answers that seem to make sense.
theoretical answers.
Theoretical answers, but their explanations, they seem to all make sense to you.
That's
it's all
true.
plausible.
It's plausible.
And
so we
they
tend to
always
believe
seem to come back with a good counter argument. So, I haven't seen anyone go, oh yeah, but what about this?
But what about
you guys doing?
What? Yeah.
But that's
I've heard about differences in when you look at the map and the scale of continents. I know that's not really exactly how we see it on the map.
Yeah.
So
your
that's
maps are all wrong.
But the point I was making was probably the four of us, since we were told about 5 years old that we lived in this ball, we never really seriously questioned that again. I'm assuming you didn't, but we never.
I
It
certainly
seems
didn't.
to be the general truth. So I'm
yeah.
assuming if there's so many,
You do have a
billion
good point
people
there.
on
Like,
Earth.
there is like a general consensus, and we all sort of agree to it.
There's a bit of peer pressure in there, and not
Yeah.
to look ridiculous or
Yeah.
be against the general flow of what everybody else thinks.
That works both ways as well with
I agree.
religions as well.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
But maybe just to go back to the water, so if water covers 75% of
You
this
never see
Earth,
it curve.
and
It doesn't-
we know it's always level, I mean, that's a self-evident truth
A scientific
in
fact,
daily
yeah.
life, right?
yeah.
Then how can we be living on a ball? Just that simple fact alone contradicts what's being said. And that is a natural fact. If you can find any curved water for me, I'd love to see it.
I'm sure you could probably. If you
When
had
you
a
say
powerful
curved
enough.
water, I'm not sure if I follow
Well, if you
with
see a
that. Like,
curve
is
on the
it-
horizon,
Well, maybe
Well, how
the
can
best.
okay?
Maybe
Well,
the
like
best thing to
gravity-
explain it can water
Gravity
conform-
bends it, obviously. Like obviously, it's sitting on the Earth.
Bendy water.
It's held in by gravity.
But gravity is a theory, right? It even says, you can Google Wikipedia, it's a theory of gravity. It's not a fact. It's not a natural fact.
It's
There's
not
a difference
provable.
between a theory and what is a natural fact.
Well, could you say that it's a theory that we exist?
well, we can deal with facts that you as an entity, 2 entities, 3 entities, 4 entities, that's a fact that 4 entities are here having a discussion or not.
Right.
So
And fire is
But then
hot.
there is the fact also that if I pick something up and drop it, it's just going to go down.
Yeah,
But if I put a helium balloon and let go, it will fall upwards. So
Surely
is that
you-
anti-gravity?
Alright, surely you could solve this by just getting if you've ever seen like site engineers and they're taking levels of stuff on sites with a dumpy level, basically just like a telescope, and they just have a ruler and they can check the levels
Surveying
from like an
leveling.
audience datum or something like that. Surely if you get a powerful enough dumpy level, you can just go out
There
with
is
the
none.
ruler.
There's no measurable testable curve. Nowhere. Absolutely nowhere. No, a survey can't find it. They'll admit to it.
it's not,
There's
it's not recorded.
recordable
There's
test-
no recorded curve. No one's ever been able to
Not
record
within
the
the
curve.
errors of observation. Within the limits of whatever optical instruments you're using to measure large distances.
Like there's a bridge in China, I forget what the name of it, but it's 100 miles long.
Yep.
Now these bridge engineers start at opposite ends, but they don't take into consideration the curvature of the
they have to meet in the middle. And
yeah.
So the ball mathematics is that for each mile.
depends what instruments they're using. So they're not going to just use dumpy levels to set up a bridge, and they're going to use GPS. So
Not 100 years ago, man. Not 50 years
that
ago.
bridge.
Not 10 years ago. They were just starting building a bridge and not taking into account
When
the
was the bridge
curvature of the
built?
Earth.
Well, take a Suez Canal. That was built.
A long time ago.
Canals operate because they're absolutely level. The water doesn't flow anywhere. That's 100 miles long. Now that would be impossible in a ball that's 8 inches per mile squared. There would have to be some curvature within those 100 miles. In fact, there would be a huge drop in curvature.
So the measurement is just so that it's for every mile it drops 8 inches. So at 2 miles it's 2 times 2 is 4 times 8 is 32 inches. So it's exponential.
Well, they have not taken this into account when they're doing this.
No, they don't.
No.
You can look it up. That no bridge builder, no canal builder ever takes in the curvature of the Earth. So why not, if it's curved?
Aeroplanes don't dip to follow the curvature of the Earth. They fly an artificial horizon using a gyroscope. So they fly level because any other angle of attack wouldn't be very economical. But if you're on an airplane, you don't feel it diving. They would have to dive and go upside down to go down to Australia. If it flied level, it would just go out into space, would it not?
Now, wouldn't the pressures change because you would be entering a different...
Isn't it a case of all the equipment that you're using is based on
That theory?
the gravity? So
Gravity theory, yeah.
Yeah.
Gravity can be explained through different substances moving through mediums according to their comparative density. So for example, buoyancy in water, things sink or things float, and Archimedes is the buoyancy principle describes that. If I let helium go, it'll fly up. If I drop a brick, it will fall down. But that's just because there's a relative density between things, and at some point you can't go any further.
Yeah.
So that's explained before gravity came,
Yes.
explained those things. So gravity is just a theory.
And density and buoyancy explained everything before theory came into practice, before it was invented. You know, if I drop
Alright.
something, it's because it's got heavier molecules than the air.
okay, well, all right.
But then what's the question? And why you...
All right, in terms of this, then, like, if you're flying a plane, right, if it was to fly level, it would fly off into space.
Yep.
Right, so we're saying this, if we're basing it on this, right? But you could set off in the UK and you could fly a plane around the world and come back to the UK without coming back the same way you can.
Do you want to please?
Yeah.
When you're ready for that one.
You can see this one coming. You've channeled me into this, haven't you? I've fallen through a trap door. I'm such a sucker.
It's a rabbit hole.
It's only because that's maybe one of the more basic assumptions that, okay, if I go off, circumnavigate, I come back where I started. But you can do that on a disk. It doesn't have to be a sphere. But people don't circumnavigate the globe between north and south. It's always east to west. And why is it not north to south? But if I'm on a flat surface, then if I go round, I'll come back to where I started.
Just to make that point clear, if the dog.
No, wouldn't you have to be turning left all the time?
No, you wouldn't notice any change in direction, especially if you're a passenger of any ship or boat. You're not going to notice any slight change.
All right, so how come this then? If you're flying to New York, you will not go directly over the Atlantic. You will go via like Iceland, Greenland, New Haven down to New York.
Now,
because that's a quicker direction.
On a flat level plane, you just fly straight.
That's in a straight line.
Yeah.
There's no up and down. It's a direct line. But on the globe, it's up and down. But if you look at any of the flat maps they show you, it's a straight line.
That's a straight line.
Which explains why they go to Greenland, because it's on line to where you're going.
I just want to make one point clear. We're not claiming any model. We're finding contradictions to the claim that's been made to us since we were small, that we live on a spinning ball. The answer is I don't know the answer to a lot of these questions.
You're just
right?
asking the questions.
I'm
all right. Well, like for another argument, then, if it was on a disc, right? So the disc we're assuming is based around the North Pole. The North Pole is the centre of the disc.
Yeah.
So, like, if you were to travel to the South Pole, that's on the outside of the disc. So the South Pole is just one big.
That's right. It's a ring magnet.
Yes.
A ring magnet, and your loudspeakers have the North Pole in the middle, and the rum of the magnet is the South Pole. That's a similar concept to that.
I have a question. What would be the point of hiding that information and saying everything is a round ball flying through space?
We could go into that, but if you're not going to believe the first premise, then the second one's going to be even wilder.
Let's assume I believe that. Let's assume that for the sake of fun.
Right, let's just
conversation. I'm curious.
Let's suggest that a little 10 pence coin is the flat surface we're talking about, and I put it down there, and there's all this other expansive space that could be external land, but we're never going to go and look there because we think we're on a ball. It's like like the horses have an electric fence to stop them going right. Well, that could be our electric fence in our mind. Well, we can't go beyond that because we think we're on a ball. So we'll look up there, but we won't look out there because we think we're on a ball.
It also causes a certain amount of hopelessness and despair amongst people if they feel that they're hurtling through universe and a huge, Big Bang, and it's a big random chance.
Meteors.
And anything bad could happen at any time. It leaves people in a state of fear. They consume more when they're fearful.
I don't know, it kind of gives me more hope. It's more imagination. They'd be imagining that it's like, wow, there's so much more.
You also look to the government leaders.
It's all what kind of person you are inside.
I used to think that too, but I don't feel that empowering anymore at all.
I think capitalism depresses me more than the fact that we're a lonely ball spinning through space.
That is depressing for me.
Yes.
But if we don't know where we are and there's actually things to still discover, then that actually gives me a lot of empowerment.
How about the modern technology? Don't you think that now there's such a huge access to modern technology? It's not just owned by government or owned by people that have a lot of money. It's so accessible you can build it yourself. That would somehow be discovered in one point.
Yeah, like SpaceX, for example. Wouldn't they be shouting about it?
Well, SpaceX is a private corporation that relies on NASA to get the rockets up there, and that relies on their consulting and their technology.
Well, what about Russians? What about Chinese? Wouldn't they be doing the same thing?
Well, that could be, I grew up with the idea that we went to the moon, and then afterwards it came back that, well, they maybe faked it because they wanted to make Russia bleed with their money. Yeah. And I personally think both of these stories are fabricated. I think the only reason they went and said they were going to space was to show us a picture of a ball so that we all believe we're living on one.
Because
But then there's
just
a
an
lot more
opinion,
other
though.
pictures.
That's just an opinion.
Okay, how about that? You know, the guy in the Red Bull thing, the guy when he jumped off
yes, good,
the highest point.
a good example. Yes.
So
Have you heard of a fisheye lens?
Yes, I have.
Yeah.
All GoPros have fisheye lenses, and a lot of wide-angle cameras have fisheye lenses. Now, the camera he has on his helmet, and the camera that's extended from the capsule, is fisheye, which gives a curvature to the shape of the Earth. But if you look at the camera that he's got on board, you can see the camera looking out, and it's a complete straight horizon.
in fact, there's lots of.
But then if you're stating like the North Pole is in the middle of that, and then the South Pole is a ring around it,
That's one model.
wouldn't that be obvious if he was so high up that only he would be able to see North
see,
Pole
like,
right in
half,
the middle?
yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Wouldn't you be able to see like the disc? Would that be?
They're not going to show you pictures of that, are they? Because they want you to believe that you're on a ball.
I think they will have to do a lot of work for something that's not. It makes.
Well, the pictures are all photoshopped, so they don't have to do much work. They just go on a computer and go, there you go.
So what you're saying, like, if we're on a disc, right? That
It seems unlikely. I would
well, like,
say it
all
seems
right.
unlikely to me.
So we're not on a ball. We're just saying we're not on it.
It's possible, but it's not plausible to me.
Well, it's good. It's good you've got a wee door open saying it might be possible, but
It is possible. Anything's
but to
possible.
believe water can exist on a curved ball, I mean, I find that ridiculous. As an adult
Now,
using critical
yeah.
thinking, as a 5-year-old, of course I'll believe it. Like I believe the Santa Claus.
As a 40-year-old, I still believed it.
Yeah, but to believe that water can exist on a ball and I can stand underneath it and that can spin around 1,000 miles an hour and then 67,000 miles around the sun. You
We
know,
don't
okay,
notice a thing.
yeah.
But isn't the other theory that we live in a disc is as ridiculous as the first one that we're living on a ball?
So what's ridiculous about living on a flat
It's
plane?
just so insane. Like it's as a concept. It's just as a concept that you can do all those things.
But explain to me why you think it's insane to be living on a stationary flat plane. Can you feel the spin?
Is it because you've
It's
maybe...
because there's so much
No, I
theory.
don't know.
There's so much information backed up behind living on a ball that when you suddenly change to living on a disc, you're asking so many questions and there's so much unanswered.
Can
there.
you give me some of that information that backs it up that you're living on a ball?
What do you mean? Like backs up? No, not I'm saying backing up. I'm saying there's so much information. So I'm not saying
No,
it's not an
I see
argument.
your
That's
point.
it.
I totally see your point. But
There's so many questions there.
I mean, the
so,
BBC. You remember the BBC News? That spinning globe has been there ever since they started the 9 o'clock news. And
yeah.
Well, I used to have it in every programme before every programme.
and if that's the proof or that's the evidence, imagery, then I can't accept that. That's not natural science.
I don't know. What's Hawking saying now? Anyway, what's his theory about that?
Well, Hawking's a space ball believer. Yeah, if that's what you would like to call him, I don't know. So, but is he? I couldn't say. I wouldn't really want to speculate whether he's a good
I would
guy or a
ask
bad
him.
guy.
I would
but-
ask him.
Yeah.
How about this then? So,
But our point is,
Sorry,
we're looking at natural
keep
science to contradict, and I think we've had enough ideas and theories and models in our minds.
That's true, but you're asking people that are not scientists. I would ask somebody
But I
that's
think
a
we all are
scientist.
scientists. That's maybe what I'm trying to get at. That
You can observe
I don't
things
have
for yourself.
resources to check all those things. I don't have
Do you do
resources,
that? You can
and
check
I've not
water.
been as interested in.
But you can check the horizon.
water.
You can check the horizon's not
Check
curved
the
by using a zoom and see that.
Well, if I go for a cycle around, and if I get from A to B, and like I fly over the sea and get somewhere else, and then come back out, I'm happy with that.
Yeah, but what if we're saying it is true, and the fact that they're lying to every child on Earth about where they live? Don't you think that's slightly criminal?
slightly criminal.
I don't know, but there talks about public travels into space or to the moon. Like, wouldn't you think that eventually that big lie would come out? Like,
In the
what's the
60s
point of lying?
In the 60s, they told us that we were going to be going to
Control?
space, and that's what 50 years ago, and they haven't managed it. They're talking in another 30
Yeah, but I
years
think
having it.
okay, 50 years
Just
ago,
'cause-
but now technology speeds up and speeds up. So
But what if this
50
is,
years
Well,
now will probably
Send me
be
a
like
picture from space
6
when you
months
get there.
these days.
But
I mean,
until then,
what if this was a pen and they wanted us to stay here in a pen at one big zoo? And there
You
is-
know what? You can tell people
There's
that they can go
something on the
whatever they
outside.
want, and they will never leave the borders of their own town.
True.
true, a lot of people
I
are
think
fear.
it doesn't-
But why is that? That's fear. Fear of change, fear of
Unknown.
the unknown. That's a belief.
so
as
what
well.
you're thinking? You're going along the theory that it's a pen that we
No,
all
it's
just live in.
not theory. I mean,
Sorry, not a theory. You're saying that you're just asking a question basically.
Yeah.
what
We
was
want
it?
people to critically think,
Yeah.
so we don't think giving answers is
Yeah.
going to help anybody because But people thinking about natural science is something that I think everybody should do.
Going back to just saying it's a ball.
People should
Going back
trust
to
more what they see instead of just based
Going back
on
to say
whatever somebody else
Appeals
tells
to
them.
authority, appeals to history, appeals to imagery.
Yeah.
These are all logical fallacies that you would call, in any, philosophical sense, they're logical fallacies. They're not natural, observable,
Observing
repeatable,
other
measurable.
planets, is this what we see? What is it? Just discs that we see that are like?
Well,
That's all I can say.
Same
I see
way.
luminaries in the sky.
When I see moon,
I see
it's
lights, and I don't know what they are.
but can you prove that it's a sphere? It's a solid sphere,
Yeah, even
rather than
that.
a disc. I mean,
That's again.
all we know is a disc. We can't
But it
tell.
will have to be moving in the same direction that we all see it, right?
Yeah, but we never see the other side of it. So, and we can't see
Of the moon, I
yeah.
suppose, yes. But then you can observe other planets as well.
Yeah, but other planets.
What do you see when you look
how
through
do you
a
know the
telescope?
planets?
You see a disc of light. That's all you
Well,
see.
I base it on whatever other people have
Tell
learned.
you.
Yeah. If I had to spend time researching all this, I think I don't know. I think it would have been
What about
pointless to do that. It would take too much time.
What about the fact that it's you could ring someone now in Japan, for example, and they won't be seeing the sun coming up the same way. It would be dark, or
Well, I think
Would it be the best way just to start drilling through the ground and see what's on the other side?
And would you?
They tried to do that, by the
they
way.
tried
The
to do that.
deepest they've come is 12 miles
Russia or
from
something.
4,000 apparently to get to the centre. So we've
So the
kinda
temperatures
scratched
start
the
getting
surface.
crazy or something.
And if you did dig down to Australia, would you come out feet first? If you jumped in the hole,
Yeah.
would you come out feet first in Australia?
With the rain pouring up your nose.
Well, I think the stuff that's going on inside, like in the middle of the earth, would mess you up. Exactly. I think
You
that's
won't
the reason
be
why
coming out the other side.
it's not like a piece of bread that you just put your finger through and the tip of your finger comes out. I think.
But still,
I think
We're maybe jumping around too much.
I was still with the question, if you're gonna phone someone in Australia and it's dark and it's
Yeah.
light
off
here,
camera
Well, the explanation for that can be that the light that we have has a finite radius. So if, for example, it was a disk, and I'm not saying it is,
Right.
and this was the middle, and the sun was here, then it can only radiate a finite point as it goes round. So that could be explained in that way rather than that the
So
Earth is turning.
right, okay.
Just to kind of jump a little bit, I feel
I didn't mean
the
to stop your flow.
Right, okay.
sorry, no worries. The whole despair feel of just living on a planet floating through space. I think I would feel more despair knowing that the world I live in is a completely different place, and people around me or scientists,
okay.
is everybody's just lying to me, and this whole big
See,
thing.
that makes me more angry and empowered to actually do something and question what I've been told, because I thought
I
that
would
way
feel
too.
discouraged if I can't trust the people around me. Like, what's the
But you can
point
trust,
anyway?
you can trust all the things that we agree on in natural science. I'm not saying don't trust
See the
anybody,
horizon, one of those photographs from inside the
but
capsule?
because I don't think there's a conspiracy of scientists. I think
You see
they're
the
all
flat
just
level
not critical
horizon?
thinking.
Yeah,
the
I
same
can
way
see
I
that,
didn't.
yeah.
That's what I think.
I think
Contradicting
we're
the other
looking
angles.
out too much, and then we should really focus on the environment that we live in and the place that we live in,
Absolutely.
instead of
It depends what
Looking
level
looking
he's
out too
at.
far
Sorry?
out.
Depends
If I
what
think
level
about
he's
it
at.
You know, you want to go
physically,
to space, but
He's just seeing
dump
a
shit
I don't
just
even know where I live.
Well,
That's
it's
the heart.
completely
I don't
different
even
to
have
the depth of
prove
coverage than other ones,
What they
isn't it?
tell me I'm living on is the place I'm living on.
But this
That's
one here, you're
me,
Yes,
talking about.
that's-
yeah.
All right,
horrible.
well,
Absolutely horrible.
it is.
so what
but
stops you from checking? Actually, if you're a scientist
there's more
yourself,
depth to
what
these
stops you from
photos as
checking?
well.
I'm checking.
So, for
Yes,
example,
I'm doing experiments with
you can
water, I'm doing
see
experiments
lakes,
with
you
vision,
can
I'm
see
trying to
earth,
look
you can
at
see
other alternative
different
explanations
things
for
in
what
these
I'm-
photos.
for what I'm
Whereas
seeing and
that
not
one you
what
can
I
just see a
believe.
line going
Yeah,
across
we do
where
experiments.
it's looking out.
Yeah, you could research the original.
So whether it's a curve or whether it's flat, there'll just be a line.
You could research
It'd
the
just be
original
the
photograph
apex.
and see it bigger, and
Sorry?
see it in perspective.
Oh, right. If you
If you see the original
all
online,
right, okay. But from that, I don't know the original from
Nice wee
this,
dog, eh?
based on
What's the
this.
name?
It's
but
just,
it is a bit suspect, isn't it? The comparison between the curve and not the curve.
no, not for me.
No, you don't think so?
I just think it's the apex.
I would advise you to go and research
Have a further look into it.
amateur balloons that go up to great heights and show complete flat horizon 360 round. And you can see many of those on YouTube. Amateur balloons with the camera
Level.
absolute level, 360
But
degrees.
then they're just going to see an
Isn't-
apex, aren't they?
When you run water in a tap.
Well, they're just going to see that. They're going to see a line.
Yeah.
If they're going up at a level, they're going to get to a certain level, and all they'll see is a line. That's all they'll see.
Is apparent proof that
they'll continue to see a line. If the camera goes up
and
it just goes black,
the shape of the basin, it's
but
trickery.
It's not curved. It's not curved like
Darren Brown,
like those pictures I just showed you.
Keys are hypnotising you.
It doesn't have that curve. It's complete straight level horizon.
There's quite a few videos explaining that online already.
I don't think you would
the
see the horizon if it was flat.
That it's a globe, but
that's what I've been told.
Okay, if I was on a ball, right,
to question
and I ascended really high,
Yeah.
at some point that ball's got to fall below my feet, hasn't it?
Yes.
It never does though. You can go up in an aeroplane or top of a mountain or the beach. It always remains at eye level, your horizon. Does it not?
Yep, it rises to your eye level.
If you're on a ball, it will fall below your feet.
If you're on a ball, it can't rise to your eye level. That can only happen on two parallel planes.
That depends on the scale of things.
Well,
It doesn't matter how big it is. It would have to fall away at some point.
do you see the different size in America? That's NASA's pictures each year. America on the right, is it a different size to the one on the left?
Ah, yes.
So how can a scientific agency that gets $50 million a day give two different images in 2 different years with different sized continents?
How can we verify
NASA's
that
website.
what you're telling us is the truth?
Just go to the NASA's website.
Go to the website. It's them that's saying it. We're not.
But if you don't mind me
Give me the link.
if you don't mind
NASA.gov.
if you don't mind me saying that, do you see how critically you question what we're saying? But
Yeah.
do you use that same critical question when NASA presents you?
No,
with an
because it's
image?
backed by a lot more people.
Yeah,
right.
but does that make it any more true?
It makes you guys sound like Jehovah's Witnesses knocking
Makes us
around
sound
and
like
asking questions. That's just my fair assessment.
Absolutely.
I'm just saying.
Absolutely. We're not offended, believe me.
I understand your
It's that bag, isn't it? It's that bag is.
But that's
Is it this bag?
they know. They're
Jehovah's
walking around asking you.
That's
They're
right.
scientists
There's people
to
that
be
probably think
aware
we're
of the
up here
predicament that they're in. Like I'm not gonna.
No, you're not the first person
big
to say that.
Maybe I could leave you just with one more natural observation, because I think this might, we're told, for example, that we have different layers of gas. We're in a pressure system, we're in an atmosphere, we breathe it, and as it goes higher and higher, it gets less and less dense, and at some point, there's a vacuum of space, which is infinite and vast.
Yes.
Correct?
Yeah.
If I look here anywhere on Earth at 2 different pressure systems, then they always have to be separated by a solid barrier. So if I had a gas container here, and I took away the container, then the gas would equilibrate with everything. Absolutely contradicts what you see in everyday life. The same way water contradicts the claim that it sticks to
Are
a
there
spinning
exact
ball.
boundaries, or is it that we read about it in books just for the simplicity of
That
it?
doesn't really matter. If it gets less and less dense and at some point there's a vacuum, why does the atmosphere not equilibrate with the vacuum?
I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know
I'll have to
either. Unless
ask
it's a
him.
fucking lie. It's that simple at the end of the day.
I have to ask a physicist, I suppose.
Well, I am.
You need Tom P.
Then
you'd have an argument.
Can we call him? Can we call him actually?
Is that your Joker call? Well, listen, I think we've taken up enough of your time. Nice talking to you.
Yeah, nice talking to you.
Thanks very much.
Thank you.
We've maybe instilled some critical thinking.
Thank you. And thanks very much for listening to Jehovah's Witnesses.
Policemen in the shadows think they're getting away, 'cause they made the rules.